Hello everyone, and welcome to my new YouTube channel. On this channel I'll be exploring the witchier side of my practice. Most of you probably know me from my books on Druidry, or from Druid College, online courses on Druidry, all that sort of thing. But I'd like to share with you the other side of my practice, which is through witchcraft and Wicca. Now, I first came to witchcraft and Wicca when I was quite young. I think I was about 18 years old, in my second or third year of college, and I was invited by my then boyfriend to go with him to this witchcraft store that was in downtown Montreal in Canada. And so I said, yeah, why not? Let's go and see what it's like. And as soon as I walked in the door, I knew that this was something very, very special. The books that were everywhere, the cats that were lying on top of the bookshelves, or just roaming freely down the aisle, or sitting on the counter, the people that were there, the scent of incense, the music that was playing. It was all just perfect, and it all coalesced with a course that I was taking at the time called Magic, Religion and Science, where we first watched a video from the National Film Board of Canada, actually a trilogy of videos. The first one was The Goddess Remembered, then we had The Burning Times, and then we had Full Circle, all about witchcraft, past, present, and moving on in towards the future. So all of this happened at the same time and kind of drew me towards witchcraft and Wicca. And so walking into that store, I felt like I was home. And so, of course, the book that I picked up was Scott Cunningham's Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner, and that was the start of my journey. Now, what is Wicca and what is witchcraft? Well, witchcraft is a tradition that is practiced all over the world in many different cultures, in many different traditions. It's a practice that deals with both the seen and unseen forces of nature. It's a practice that usually incorporates magic and spellcraft of some sort. Wicca is a modern religious form of witchcraft which has existed for millennia. Witchcraft has. Wicca is a modern religious or spiritual tradition that began in the 1950s, and it gained in popularity after the witchcraft laws were repealed in the early 1950s. Hey Barnabas! My cat's here now. It was made popular by a bloke called Gerald Gardner, who had studied with witches in his part of England, in the UK, and he wrote some books on it and called it Wicca, based on the old word witcha. It's supposed to be pronounced witcha, but he decided to call it Wicca. That's Barnabas just scratching on his post. Silly man. Wicca incorporated elements of the earlier witchcraft traditions, such as spellcraft, such as working with the forces of nature, but turned it into a more of a religious nature, with the concepts of priests and priestesses, honoring a twin deity, a god and a goddess, as opposed to a more kind of polytheistic version of deity. It also made it more modern in the sense that normal, modern, everyday people were doing it. This wasn't something that was in the past. This was something that was happening today, right now, in people's backyards. Gerald Gardner's close friend was Ross Nichols. Now Ross Nichols is the chap that began the modern form of Druidry around the same time that Gerald Gardner was establishing the modern form of Wicca. These two close friends would talk a lot about folklore and history and customs, and created what is known as the Wheel of the Year, which is the 8 festivals that are celebrated in much of modern paganism, but especially in Wicca and in Druidry. And so there are a lot of similarities between Wicca and Druidry, or to be more precise, modern Wicca and modern Druidry. Both Wicca and Druidry have their roots in a more magical tradition. Call it witchcraft if you want. The ancient Celts were very much into working with magic, with nature. The Druids were said to be renowned magicians, spellcasters, working with the forces of nature to achieve what they wanted to. And so all of these elements kind of combine and blend into what we know today as the various paths between witchcraft, Wicca, and Druidry. And probably a lot of people, like myself, see the blurred lines between the different traditions and don't establish these hard boundaries of categories, saying you are a Wiccan and a Wiccan only, you are a witch and a witch only, or you are a Druid, that is all you are. I also study Zen, I also study Buddhism, so my background is a huge mishmash of different traditions from all over the world. I learned about the Iroquois tradition from where I grew up in Quebec in Canada. So I have a lot of different cultures and traditions informing me on how to work with nature, with the natural world, with the ancestors, with the spirits of nature, with deity as I see it. So this channel is going to be all about how I do that in a witchy context. So I'm going to be talking about different things that I do in my practice that are separate from what you might know of me through all my Druid books and writings, my blogs, etc., etc. So I'm going to talk to you about what I do as a witch and as a Wiccan. Now, I don't see myself under one single label, as I said earlier. I don't see myself as purely a Wiccan or as purely a witch. There are concepts of Wicca that I find are absolutely beautiful and that I will incorporate into my tradition. But there are other elements as well that don't sit quite so comfortably with me, and so normally I just use the term witch. But as everything, it's a huge melting pot, and if you want to apply a label to it, that's great. But for me, I prefer to live in a non-labeled universe. Labels help in the sense that I can say that is a hedge, that is a tree, and that is my cat Barnabas sitting here watching me as if I'm a complete lunatic. But it helps to differentiate things from each other, but we also have to understand that everything is connected. And this is what my religious spirituality, my earth-based tradition teaches me, is that everything is connected, everything is part of each other. So within my witchcraft tradition, I see everything as one, which is then split into two, into a goddess and god, and the goddess and god come together to form the one again, in this ever-flowing cycle of nature. No beginning and no end. I'll talk a little bit more about deity, about the goddess and god, and about various other aspects of Wicca and witchcraft in later videos. So I hope that you will join me on this journey as I explore and share with you the witchier side of my nature. It seems like so long ago when I started on this path at the tender age of 18, and now that I'm 44, I've had a lot of study, I've had a lot of experience, and yet I see that there's so much more to learn, so much more to experience, and so much more to discover. So I hope that you will enjoy this journey of discovery with me on this channel, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you. See you then.